Mama, please. Today is moonlight dead walk. The dead are walking outside. Let me fetch the water tomorrow.
No, you must fetch that water this night. My daughter also wants to lick Udara this night. You go and get Udara for her as well. If you're not with Udara and water, don't come back this night.
It was midnight, and the moon of the 6th month hung heavy and pale over the village. This was the night the old ones called Abali Ozu Ije, the night the dead walked. Once every 6th moon, the spirits of those who had gone before rose from their resting places to wander the paths they once knew, to stand before the huts they once lived in, to remember the lives they had lived. No living soul dared step outside on this night. Doors were barred, fires were put out, even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. But in one hut at the edge of the village, Isioma was awake. She shook her stepson Ifunaya from his sleep. He was 20 years old, quiet and dutiful, the son of the husband's first wife, who had died years before. "I want to bathe," Isioma said, "and there is no water in this house. Go to the stream and fetch it for me." Ifunaya sat up, his heart already pounding. "Mama, it is the 6th month dead walk, and it is midnight. Please, tomorrow morning I will fetch as much water as you want." He did not even finish the sentence before her hand struck him. "Who are you to tell me when to do what I want in my own house?" she hissed. "And how many times have I told you not to call me Mama? Your mother is dead. She is gone, rotten in the ground. Now get up and fetch my water." She dragged him toward the door. He begged her, weeping, asking that she at least send Adeyeze, her own daughter, 22 years old, to go with him so he would not walk alone in the dark. "Never," Isioma spat. Just then Adeyeze stirred from her mat, rubbing her eyes. "Mama," she yawned, "I want to eat udara tonight."
"I am craving it."
Isioma's face brightened as though her daughter had granted her a gift. She turned back to Ifunaya. "You have heard her. Before you return with the water, you will pass by the udara tree and pick some for your sister. And hear me well, if you come back to this house without both, do not come back at all." They pushed him out into the black night, with nothing but a clay pot in his trembling hands, and barred the door behind him. Ifunaya stood alone under the dead moon. Somewhere beyond the huts he could already hear it, low murmurs, footsteps that were not footsteps, cries carried on no wind. The dead were walking. He ran, stumbling from one bush corner to another, his pot clutched to his chest, too frightened to think of the stream or the udara tree at all. His feet carried him instead to the village shrine. He fell before it, sobbing, and poured out everything: his stepmother's cruelty, his sister's carelessness, the years of being told he was nobody's son. From around his neck he removed a strand of beads his own mother had given him before she died, and he laid it gently at the foot of the shrine. "I have nothing else to give," he whispered. "Take this. In its place, only shield me tonight." Then he rose and went on his way. At the udara tree, as he gathered the fallen fruit into his wrapper, a small voice called to him from the undergrowth. A tiny bush child, no taller than his knee, stood watching him with wide eyes, begging for udara. Ifunaya, though frightened half out of his senses, could not refuse a hungry child, spirit or not. He held out 2 fruits. The bush child took them gladly, then reached up and plucked 2 strands of hair from his own head, pressing them into Ifunaya's palm. Ifunaya did not understand what he had been given. He only bowed his thanks and hurried on, tucking the strange gift into his waistcloth. At the stream, the water was still and silver under the moon, and standing in it, unmistakable even to a frightened boy, was the river goddess herself. Ifunaya's knees nearly failed him, but he remembered the fruit still in his wrapper and offered it to her, even though he knew disturbing a goddess's peace on such a night could mean his end. The goddess looked at him a long moment. Whatever she saw in him, a boy who gave rather than took, even in his own terror, softened her. She allowed him to fill his pot. On his way home, the dead came upon him in the path. a slow procession of gray figures with hollow eyes. Ifunaya froze, certain his life was over. But as they turned toward him, each one stopped. Above his head, where he could not see it himself, the shape of the village shrine shimmered faintly in the moonlight. The shrine's protection, walking with him. The dead parted before it, clearing his path, and he walked through their ranks untouched, all the way home. When Isioma opened the door and saw him standing there, alive, whole, pot full of water, wrapper full of udara, she could not believe her eyes. Adeze snatched her fruit greedily, but it was the 2 strands of strange hair which fell from Ifunaya's waistcloth as he set down the pot that caught Isioma's attention. "What is this?" she asked, picking one up between her fingers. It gleamed faintly, unlike any hair she had ever touched. Ifunaya, too tired and relieved to think of hiding anything, told her of the bush child. Isioma's eyes lit with a greed she did not bother to disguise. She pulled Adeze aside and whispered fiercely, low enough that she thought Ifunaya could not hear. "Bush child hair is worth more than 100 bags of cowries. We must be rid of this boy tonight, before he understands what he is carrying." But Ifunaya heard. He did not wait to hear more. He threw open the door and ran out into the night once again, this time with the 2 women chasing behind him, shouting. Round and round the hut they ran, mother and daughter, pursuing the boy through the dark compound. And it was in that chase, in their fury, that they failed to watch the path. Another company of the dead passed close by the hut just then, and in their carelessness, Isioma and Adeze looked full upon them. The moment the sight struck their eyes, both women froze. Then, screaming, they abandoned the chase and fled back inside, slamming the door. But it was already too late. To see the dead walk directly, face to face, was to be marked for death before the next sunrise. That night they did everything the old women had ever taught them. They washed their faces with nzu, the white chalk, praying and rubbing it into their skin until it caked. Isioma kept telling her daughter, again and again, "Nothing will happen, nothing will happen to us." But when morning came, neither of them woke again. They were found in their sleeping mats, their bodies gone strangely dark, as though the night itself had settled permanently into their skin. Ifunaya, who had slept outside beneath the stars that night, with only the memory of the shrine's shimmer above him, rose unharmed with the sun. The next day, he returned to the shrine to reclaim his mother's beads and to give his thanks. As he knelt there, the village dibia came upon him, an old man whose eyes seemed to already know the whole of the boy's story before it was told. "Those hairs you carry," the dibia said, "are no ordinary thing. Take them to the traders beyond the 7th market. They will pay you in cowries beyond counting. From this day, boy, you will want for nothing." And so it was. Ifunaya, who had been driven from his own home in the dead of night with nothing but a clay pot and a mother's memory, became a man of great wealth in the village, known ever after not for what he had been given, but for what he had given first: fruit to a hungry spirit child, beads to a shrine, water carried in fear, but with an unbroken heart. Isioma and Adeze, whose bodies had turned the color of the grave itself, were carried to the evil forest, as was done with all who died by the sight of the dead walk. No drum was beaten for them, no name was called over their graves. The village only whispered, as such villages do, that the 6th-month moon sees everything, who gives and who only takes, and it does not forget.